All right. Hello and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. I'm gonna be doing a April and May reading wrap up. Let's just get into it. So the first book that I read, if you've watched my buying my book wish list video, you've seen this book already, but this is the Daisy Haites, The Great Undoing. This is the Magnolia Parks universe. If you don't know Magnolia Parks universe, this is the fourth book in that series, and it's essentially this like rich friend group in London, and it kind of gives Gossip Girl vibes, but Daisy Haites, her family, is into like the crime world, if that makes sense. It's about Daisy and this guy named Christian, and Christian's my favorite. I also really like Julian. Julian is Daisy's brother, but Christian is the man, okay? I'm pretty sure I cried when I was reading this. Honestly, Jessa Hastings just knows how to get you to want to read the next book. The last like chapter always makes you be like, wow, I need to read the next one immediately, and I don't think the next one comes out for another year. But Daisy's my favorite. I gave this 5 out of 5. I love Jessa Hastings' writing. I've annotated quite a lot. I love annotating her books. 5 out of 5. If you haven't read the Magnolia Parks universe, read it. It's so good. Okay, next up, The Stolen Heir by Holly Black. I believe it's gonna be a duology. She is going off of the little brother Oak from the Folk of Air series, which is Cruel Prince, The Wicked King, and The Queen of Nothing, which that series is amazing. If you haven't read it, read it. This one, I was trying to go into it with an open mind. Like, I'm not trying to compare to the other series, because the other series was just, I love the other series so much. So the two main characters, it's about Oak and Surin. I feel like Oak, I know Oak from the other series, but if you've never read the other series, I feel like it doesn't give you as much of a background as you should get on Oak. I feel like Oak could have been made more likable, if that makes sense. But I did really enjoy the setting and like the writing. It was all really good. I just almost feel like the book could be bigger, if that makes sense. Not even 400 pages. So I don't know. I feel like it could have been a little bit more detailed on Oak, given to his personality more, because I feel like it's only surface level. Anyways, I gave this a 4 out of 5. So the next book I read, I don't have the physical copy on me because I lent it to my sister, but it was Archer's Voice. I gave it a 5 out of 5. I went into it with very, very high expectations because people are so hyped about Archer's Voice, which I agree. I gave it a 5 out of 5. It deserves a 5 out of 5. But there's something about how everyone was hyping it up so much that I was expecting. Okay, no, it was really amazing. Like, basically it follows this guy, Archer, who doesn't speak. So Bree, this girl Bree, she moves to this small town and she sees Archer. She kind of starts getting to know him, and then you kind of get into the background of why he doesn't speak. It's a really interesting story. It's a dynamic in characters that I haven't seen before. I feel like people overhyped it so much that I was expecting, like, I don't know, something insane, like heart-wrenching. And I think if the epilogue wasn't there, I would have been actually torn apart. That's it. That's all I'm gonna say. 5 out of 5 stars though. Amazing book. The next book I read is Anatomy by Dana Schwartz, and I gave this a 5 star. So it follows this girl Hazel, which, first of all, I love the name Hazel. Back in this time, women weren't allowed to be, kind of like in the medical field, they weren't really supposed to have jobs. She is like essentially rich and she doesn't even need to work, but she just has an interest in anatomy and medicine in general. And there's this guy named Jack that he's a, what do you call those again? They call them resurrection men. And essentially they dig up bodies, and Hazel's trying to learn more things about anatomy, and she can't, as a woman, be in the medical field. So they need to help each other, work together, because he's poor and then she's paying him. It's a very strange thing. It's also based in the 1800s, so you can kind of guess the kind of fashion, men are the, you know, doctors, and it's very interesting. It's a really good read. And then there's also a second book. There's also a second book, so it's a duology. It's called Immortality, and I haven't read it yet. Someone did comment on one of my videos and said that, or maybe it was my TikTok, I don't know, but someone commented and said that in Immortality there's like a love triangle or something. I don't know. I was like, are you kidding me? But I honestly, I love Dana Schwartz writing, so I feel like she could make it really good. 5 out of 5. The next book that I read, Finesse by Cynthia Sweeney, I gave this a 3 star, but I do think it is a very interesting read. It's about the Plum family. It's 2 brothers and 2 sisters. They have this trust fund essentially that's called the nest, which is why it's called the nest. They can't inherit it until a certain age, inheriting it like very late in life. It's not like they turn 18 and they inherit their trust fund. I think it's like when the youngest daughter turns 40, they inherit it. The youngest daughter is about to turn 40. The older brother, Leo, gets in a car accident and there's someone in the car with him. He's endangering the trust for everyone. So he's kind of messing up everyone's idea for what they had for the money. And it's funny because most of the people, they're like, oh, it's okay, like I'm gonna get my trust fund in like a year, and like some of them are like severely in debt. It's a really interesting story and it doesn't really have like a perfect ending. It's not just like wrapped up in a bow like beautifully. It's kind of just, it reminds me a little bit of Sally Rooney's endings. They're not really an ending, they're kind of just, if this was a show, I would watch the heck out of this show. I gave it a 3 though, but I actually did enjoy reading it. Okay, and next, I started the Shadow and Bone trilogy. This is Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. This follows a girl named Alina Starkov. She's a soldier and she's a map maker. Her and her friend Mal have to cross the Shadowfold, which is this like eternal darkness. Like it's just darkness. They've never crossed it before, and a lot of people don't usually make it out alive when they cross it. And there's these things called Grisha, which is like these people with like magical abilities. You get tested to see if you're a Grisha when you're younger. For some reason, no one ever saw that she had power. And when they cross the Shadowfold, she like unleashes this like dormant magic. So this guy named the Darkling takes her in and he's trying to destroy the Shadowfold using her kind of magic. I also feel like this book could have been a little bit longer, or they could have been just a little bit more detail. Mal and Alina, I don't have that like pull towards their relationship as much as I wish I did. I just kind of wish we got a bit more about Mal and Alina when they were younger. But anyways, I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars because I thought there was something missing. And the next one I read is Siege and Storm. Obviously can't really say much, otherwise it's gonna spoil. It kind of goes deeper into Alina's power. Gave this a 4 out of 5 as well. And then the last one, this was actually my favorite one of the whole series, which is called Ruin and Rising, which is the 3rd book, the very last book in the Shadow and Bone series. And this one was very fast-paced. You got more behind the Darkling, more behind Mal, more behind Alina, more behind like most characters, and I feel like the pace was perfect. I really like this one. Ruin and Rising was my favorite of the 3. This one I gave a 5 out of 5 stars. The other ones are 4 out of 5s, but overall I would probably rate the series a 4 out of 5. If you read the whole Grishaverse, I definitely like Six of Crows better in the Grishaverse. If you're gonna read anything by Leigh Bardugo, read Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, because if you're gonna read anything in the Grishaverse, read this, okay? This is just a masterpiece. Not that the other one wasn't good, but this just hit, I don't know. So the very last book that I read was actually one that I randomly picked up at the bookstore because it was on sale. That is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. And this is actually the first book I've ever read by Emily Henry, and I know everyone loves her. And I just wanted something easy that after reading a trilogy or a series, I just want something easy, lighthearted, just fly through. And I was not disappointed, but it was also way better than I anticipated. Let me just explain what it's about. Basically, this girl, Nora, she is a literary agent, and this guy, Charlie, he's an editor, and they both are from New York, and they both somehow end up in the small town. So it's a small town story, but gives a kind of refreshing eye to small town romances because they're both New York drawn. I love the perspective of Nora and Charlie. I'm like, yeah, I would want to be New York too. I love the hustle, I love the vibe, and so I related to the characters a lot in that way. You were just getting like emotionally mature, knowing what they want vibe. I just love the small town aspect, but with the big city mentality, if that makes sense. Like they were like, New York is the place, but since she's a literary agent and he's an editor and they're both in the same small town, you know, they kind of get thrown together at one point. And give it a 5 out of 5. I don't know, this was just a very specific, like, I feel like I will remember this book a long time. I don't know why, it was just very different. I've related to the characters more than I do in like other small town romances, because most small town romances, they're just like, oh my gosh, I just love the small town. I love just slow living, which honestly pop off. I love slow living too, but they're like, you live in New York, like, I don't know, just whenever Emily would write about New York, I was like, New York girl. But I just love how she did this in a different way. It wasn't like a predictable, you can kind of guess some things, but it wasn't like a super predictable small town romance type of thing. It just, read it. read it if I haven't read anything else by Emily Henry. I really want to read Beach Read. This is the last book I read, and I'm almost on another book, but that will have to be in the June wrap up. And yeah, that's all the books I have for today. I've been having a bit of a reading slump since ACOTAR, but I feel like everyone has a reading slump after ACOTAR. Not bad for in a reading slump. Really liked all the books, it's just none of them have stuck with me the same. I don't know. Comment down below if you're a ACOTAR stan, do you ever feel whole again in a book, in a series? Do you ever feel that same way? Because I feel like everyone who likes ACOTAR says it's their favorite series and like nothing will ever compare. And that's just a bit depressing. But anyways, that's all I have for today. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe if you want to, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.